I want you to picture a scene. It happens in pretty much every nonprofit office, every single January.
Oh, I know the scene.
The holidays are over, everything's put away, and you're sitting in front of a laptop. And on the screen is a spreadsheet. And it is completely, terrifyingly blank.
The blank canvas of doom.
Exactly.
Oh.
Except for one little cell way down at the bottom.
Yeah.
The target. Maybe it's $100,000, maybe it's $1 million. And you're just staring at it, and you get that pit in your stomach, and you think, how? How on earth are we actually going to do this?
That is the universal anxiety of fundraising. It's a very specific kind of vertigo. You know, you're at the bottom of a mountain looking up, and you realize you don't even have a map, just an order to climb.
And usually what happens next is, well, panic or bad math. Or both.
Usually both.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into a tool that's designed to cure that specific anxiety. It's often called a gift range calculator, sometimes a scale of gifts.
And honestly, don't let the dry name fool you. This isn't just about making a spreadsheet look good. This is about the fundamental difference between having a wish and having a plan.
I'm really excited to get into this because our sources today suggest that so many organizations, even the really big, sophisticated ones, are setting their goals completely wrong.
Whoa!
Almost like they're setting themselves up to fail from the start.
It happens more than you'd think. It's kind of tragic, actually. And before we get to the solution, we really have to understand the trap. The source material points out these 3 common mistakes. I call them the unholy trinity of fundraising goals.
Okay, let's run through the hall of shame. First up is the percentage bump.
Right. This is the path of least resistance. You look at last year, say you raised $1 million and you just add 10%. So boom, the goal is $1.1 million.
But wait, that sounds logical, doesn't it? Let's just do a little better.
Yeah.
Inflation, costs go up. Why is that a mistake?
It feels logical, but it's lazy. It totally ignores the reality of your donor base. Just because you raised $1 million last year doesn't mean the capacity is there for more this year.
So it assumes the money just sort of grows on its own.
Exactly, like moss. But donors don't just automatically give 10% more because it's a new year. Which brings us to number 2, the gap filler.
Oh, the gap filler. This one's scary.
This is the dangerous one. This is when the finance committee looks at the budget, sees let's say a $200,000 hole, and magically the fundraising goal becomes exactly $200,000.
Because that's what we need.
Right. But what we need has zero correlation with what we can actually raise. It's desperation masquerading as a strategy.
And the third one is just the guess.
The wish and a prayer. Let's go for $1 million. Why? Because it sounds good.
The source also had a term for the other side of this, setting the goal too low. They called it gold bricking.
Yes, gold bricking. You set a goal you know you can hit in your sleep just so you can high-five everyone at the end of the year.
So you're not pushing the mission.
Not at all. But honestly, the more common tragedy is the gap filler. It just sets your team up for a year of feeling like they're drowning.
Okay, so guessing is bad. Hoping is not a strategy. This brings us to the hero of our story today, the gift range calculator. Now, before we dig into the nuts and bolts, and the math is really fascinating, I just want to mention, for anyone listening who's starting to sweat right now, because you realize your strategy is, in fact, guessing. There is help. You can find out more about all kinds of fundraising methods at fundraisingcourses.com. It's a great resource if you want to broaden your education beyond just this one tool.
Absolutely. Education is the best antidote to that anxiety we were talking about.
Okay, so the gift range calculator. What is it exactly? What am I looking at?
At its core, it's a tool for granularity. It's a roadmap. So instead of staring at that one massive number, let's use $100,000, it breaks it down into a pyramid of gift levels.
So it turns raise $100,000 into something like get one gift of $15,000, 2 gifts of $10,000, and so on.
Precisely. It creates a checklist. And that's transformative because it shifts your focus. You're not trying to climb the whole mountain at once. You're just looking for a specific number of people to say yes to a specific amount.
Which leads right into the first big benefit,
Yeah.
reducing anxiety. I love this because it's so psychological.
It is entirely psychological. Big numbers are abstract. They're intimidating. Our brains aren't wired to process $100,000 as a to-do list item. It just feels like a wall.
Right. It's paralyzing.
But if I tell you you need to find 3 people to give $5,000, well, that's a task. You can visualize that. You can look at your list and think, okay, who are 3 people who might do that? Is it Sarah? Is it the local bank?
It makes the impossible feel manageable.
It's compartmentalization, in the best way. You can tackle each level one step at a time.
But it's not just about breaking the number down evenly, is it? You don't just say, okay, for $100,000, we need 1,000 people to give $100.
No, please never do it that way. That is the quickest path to burnout. And that brings us to the second major benefit, understanding gift distribution.
They ask everyone's strategy.
The spaghetti against the wall strategy, it rarely works. And here's why. Efficiency. The labor to find, ask, and thank 1,000 separate people it's huge. You'll drown in paperwork.
Okay.
The calculator reflects a reality we see in almost every campaign. It's the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle.
What do you mean?
Well, traditionally it meant 80% of your money comes from 20% of your donors. But honestly, it's skewing even steeper now. It's often 90-10. A very small number of major donors give the vast majority of the funds.
So the calculator forces you to admit that you need big gifts. You can't just bake sale your way to $1 million.
It forces you to prioritize. The source is very clear. Ask the prospects with the biggest capacity first. Start at the top of that pyramid.
Why is the order so important, though? Why not start with the easy $50 checks to get some wins on the board? That would make me feel better.
It might make you feel better, but it hurts the campaign. It's all about social proof. Imagine going to a major donor, someone who could give $10,000, and you say, we're trying to raise $100,000, and so far we've raised $500.
It sounds like a sinking ship, or one that hasn't even left the dock.
Exactly. It feels risky. Donors are investors. But if you go to them and say, we're launching a $100,000 campaign and we've already secured $40,000 from our lead investors, we need you to help us close the gap.
That feels completely different. Now I'm joining a winning team.
That's it. The big gifts anchor the campaign. They validate it. The calculator structures your effort. It stops you from wasting time on low-yield stuff at the beginning.
Okay, this leads to what I think is the biggest aha moment in the source material. This is the math that really stops people in their tracks.
The prospect-to-donor ratio. This is the piece of data that almost everyone ignores.
Let's unpack this. Because I think most people assume, if I need 10 gifts, I need to ask 10 people.
And that's a beautiful thought. It's also completely wrong. The standard rule, and the source is very clear on this, is you need to ask 3 to 5 prospects for every one gift you get.
3 to 5. So let's do the math. If the calculator says I need 10 gifts of $5,000,
then you need to identify 40 to 50 qualified prospects at that level.
40 to 50. For just that one line on the spreadsheet.
Yes. And this is usually where the room goes silent.
Hey, I can feel the panic rising again.
Ah.
But this is actually a good thing to know, isn't it?
It is the most important thing to know. This is your viability test. If your calculator says you need 10 $5,000 gifts, and you look at your list and you only have 12 names who could possibly do that,
You're not going to hit your goal.
you're not. But the key is, you know that in January, not in December when you run out of money. It saves you from spending a year chasing an impossible goal.
So what do you do if you don't have the 50 names?
You pause. You don't start asking. You start prospecting. Or you lower the goal to match reality. But you don't just march blindly off the cliff.
Now, you used a specific word, qualified prospects. The source was pretty clear on what that means.
Right. A name on a list is not a prospect. The source defines it with 3 criteria, sometimes called the CIA method.
CIA. Sounds intense.
It is. It's capacity, interest, and access. You have to have all 3.
Okay, break those down. Capacity is the obvious one.
Do they have the money? Can they actually write a $5,000 check? If not, they're not a prospect for that level.
Okay. Interest.
Do they care about what you do? This is the Bill Gates syndrome. People put a billionaire on their list just because he's rich. But if he only cares about global health and you run a dog shelter, he's not a prospect. He has 0 interest.
And the third one, access. This feels like the trickiest.
It is. Can you actually reach them? Do you have a phone number? Or do you know someone who can make an introduction? If you have no way to get a meeting, they are a fantasy, not a prospect.
So those 50 prospects, that's 50 people who have the money, care about the cause, and will pick up the phone.
Correct. And that's why the ratio is so powerful. It forces a brutally honest reality check.
But you can adjust that ratio, right? The source mentioned that.
Yeah, it's a slider. It's based on relationship strength. If you have a super loyal donor base, maybe your ratio is 2 to 1. You're really efficient.
But if you're cold calling or breaking into a new city,
That ratio might be higher, maybe 6 or 7 to 1. You have to kiss a lot more frogs. It's a great reminder that fundraising is about relationships, not just transactions.
okay, so this is all fantastic, but now for the practical part. I'm listening to this and thinking, I did not get into this work to build complex Excel formulas.
The good news is you don't have to. The source highlights that this is a solved problem. There are tools out there.
Okay, so what does the source recommend?
Well, they mention a few. Mark Pittman has a great automated one. It's online. It's free. You just type in your goal, hit enter, and it generates the whole chart for you.
That sounds like my speed.
There's also Donnerbox, which is more customizable. And for the real data nerds who love their spreadsheets, Salsa has a DIY guide to building your own.
So there's really no excuse not to have one.
None at all. It takes 5 minutes and can save you months of heartache.
One last thing from the source I want to touch on is this idea of dynamic usage. Because I can see people making this chart in January and then just filing it away.
The file and forget method, also a recipe for failure. The calculator is a living document. It's your dashboard, your navigation system.
How so?
As the year goes on, you track your actual gifts against it. So say it's June. The chart said you needed 5 gifts of $5,000. You check your records. You have 4.
Great. We're on track.
But then you look at the next row. It said you needed 20 gifts of whole $1,000. And you have 0.
Oof. That tells you something very specific.
It tells you exactly where you're bleeding. It says our mid-level giving strategy is completely failing. Instead of just a vague panic of, we need more money, you have an actionable problem. We need to find 20 people to give $1,000.
It turns a crisis into a specific task.
Precisely. It lets you pivot while there's still time on the clock.
This has been, honestly, kind of a relief. It's nice to know there's a structure to the madness.
It really is about removing the mystery. Fundraising can feel like magic or begging, but it's really just math, probability, and relationship management.
So, to boil it all down, we stop guessing. We use a calculator to break the big number down. We apply the prospect ratio remembering CIA, capacity, interest, access, and then we track it like a hawk all year.
That's the recipe. It systematizes your planning and puts your effort where it counts.
I want to leave our listeners with a thought that came up here. We talked a lot about math today, but the more we talked, the more I realized this isn't really about math.
No, it's about confidence.
Exactly. The gift range calculator doesn't just change your spreadsheet. It changes how you walk into a room to make an ask.
It forces you to look at your contact list honestly before you ever ask for $1. When you know the math works, you ask with authority. You're not apologizing for the goal, you're executing a plan.
And that's the provocative question we want to leave you with. Are you banking on luck, or are you executing a plan that is backed by data? Because one of those is a job, the other is just gambling.
And your mission is way too important to gamble with.
Well said. And before we sign off, just a final reminder that if this conversation sparked something in you and you want to dig deeper into these strategies, you can visit fundraisingcourses.com. It's a great place to continue the journey.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive.
See you next time.